Welcome to Idea TV News at 9. I am Mary Ojumajo. I'll begin with the headlines. KOGI schools to reopen after security-driven break. ANTHEM activated substation to connect for 20 megawatts of wind power. At least 50 killed women abducted in ZAMFARA attack. And away from Africa, Trump criticized Supreme Court after tariff on Nigerian order voided. In business, custom hands over seized for worth $40.7 million to NMDPRA. In health, UNICEF condemns Nigeria over 14 million new birth registration. And finally, sport, Niger Delta game promotes unity and youth empowerment. And now the news in full. The KOGI state government has announced that all public and private primary and secondary schools will resume on Monday, February 23, 2026, following an emergency mid-term break declared earlier this month. Authorities said the temporary closure, which began on February 4, was a precautionary response to credible security intelligence. Governor Ahmed Usman Ododo ordered the shutdown of safeguard students, teachers and school personnel amid concerns over potential threats. The School Commission for Information Kingsley Fowler said enhanced security measures have been implemented to ensure a safe learning environment and prevent further disruption to the academic calendar. The resumption was confirmed by the Director of Basic and Secondary Education on behalf of the Commissioner for Education. Officials said schools across the state are expected to come fully as academic activities return to normal under strengthened security arrangement. Moving forward, South Africa renewable energy developer ANTHEM has energized the Gaman B main transmission substation to connect 420 megawatts of wind power to the national grid. The company said the facility links its northern cluster wind project and marks a major step in expanding clean energy capacity. Built over 20 months for the National Transmission Company South Africa, a subsidiary of Eskom, this substation features 400 kilowatts and 132 kilovolt infrastructure, including a 500 megavolt ampere transformer located between the Northern Cape and Western Cape provinces. It will transmit electricity generated by the Umsede, Kahakele and Kewat farm wind. The three wind projects currently under construction have a combined capacity of 420 megawatts and are expected to reach full commissioning in the fourth quarter of 2026. ANTHEM said the electricity would be supplied to industrial clients through power purchase agreements and delivered via the national grid using a willing mechanic supporting South Africa's transmission towards cleaner energy. At least 50 people have been killed and several women and children abducted after gunmen attacked Donga Duse village in ZAMFARA state, northwest Nigeria. The lawmaker representing Bokohum South, Hamisu A. Fayo, said the assault began at about 5 in the evening on Thursday and lasted until around 3:30 on Friday morning, with attackers moving from one community to the other. Witnesses said the gunmen, who arrived on motorcycles, shot residents attempting to flee and set homes ablaze. Fayo confirmed that at least 50 people were killed, while the exact number of abducted victims is still being verified by local authorities. Residents claimed they had alerted security forces a day earlier after sighting more than 150 armed men approaching the area. ZAMFARA remains one of the states highly hit by banditry and mass adoption. Armed groups frequently target rural communities, often operating 4 hours with limited resistance. The latest attack is expected to intensify pressure on federal and state authorities to strengthen security operations across Nigeria's troubled northwest region. We'll go on a quick break now. The news continues when we return. Welcome back. If you're just joining, this is Idea News at 9. Now the rest of the news. And away from Africa, United States President Donald Trump has rejected a ruling by the Supreme Court of the United States that struck down his administration's global traffic on Nigeria and 184 other countries. In a 6-3 decision, the court held that the president exceeded his authority by invoking emergency power to impose sweeping airport duties without congressional approval. The tariff, introduced on April 2, 2025 and doubled Liberation Day, placed a 10% baseline duty on imports alongside higher country-specific rates. Nigeria was subjected to a 15% tariff under the Public Administration ruled on the International Emergency Economic Power Act, but the court ruled that the law does not grant the president ultimate authority to impose tariff of such scale and duration. Speaking at the White House, President Donald Trump described the judgment as deeply disappointing. Chief Justice John Roberts, delivering the land option, said allowing the tariff to stand would upset the constitutional balance between Congress and the executive on trade policy. The ruling applied specifically to the Liberation Day tariff, leaving separate trade measures imposed under other stationary authority unaffected. And now in business, the Nigerian Customs Service has handed over 165 jerrycans of premium motor spirit, PMS, to worth 4.7 billion naira to the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petrol Regulatory Authority to further investigation. The seizure was part of a crackdown on false smuggling around Lagos State, targeting routes in Badagry, Owonde, Sim, and other broader communities. According to Controller General of Customs Bashir Adeyemi, assisted by the National Coordinator of Operation, Abubakar Aliyu, 1,630 jerrycans of 25 litre each were recovered along notorious corridors such as Odudu, Ode, Apapa, and other vicinities. 3 tankers carrying a total of 154,000 litres of PMS were also intercepted. Adeyemi explained that these seizures were collected, driven, and part of the 2024 launched operation aimed at combing cross-border fuel smuggling. Adeyemi warned that broader corridors like Owonde and others, Badagry, described as sensitive economy altering, would not serve as safe haven for economic sabotage. Grace Douala of the NMDPRA said the agency mandates it to ensure petroleum projects intended for domestic consumption are not diverted, and called on the public to support anti-smuggling efforts. The handover underscores continued interagency collaboration to enforce compliance and protect Nigerians' energy security and market stability. And now in health, the United Nations Children's Fund says Nigeria has recorded a major increase in birth registration, with 14 million children officially documented in the past 2 years. UNICEF country representative Wada Sid made this known during a visit to Nigeria's First Lady Oloremi Tinubu at the State House in Abuja, describing the progress as remarkable within such a short period. According to UNICEF, the expansion of digital registration system at health facility and strong national leadership have driven the improvement. He said, birth registration is the first right of every child, ensuring legal identity and access to essential services. She noted that a bill before the National Assembly is expected to further strengthen the framework. Responding, Senator Tinubu welcomed the development but stressed the need to sustain the memorandum until every Nigerian child is registered. She said accurate birth data is critical, particularly as Nigeria has not conducted a census in recent years. The First Lady also raised concern about high rates of tuberculosis, HIV, and maternal and child mortality, pledging continual collaboration with UNICEF to improve outcome for children nationwide. And finally, sports. President Bola Tinubu has described sport as a powerful instrument of unity and empowerment, urging greater investment in young people and women. Speaking through the Minister of State for Industry, John Edu, at the opening of the second Niger Delta Games in Benin City, he commended the Niger Delta Development Commission for sustaining the initiative and reaffirming its administration focus on human capital development. The week-long event held at the Samuel Studio has drawn more than 3,000 athletes from 9 Niger Delta states. President Tinubu said the games go beyond medals, serving as a platform for talent discovery and career development. He called on the NDDC and other sponsors to expand opportunities for youth and women, stressing that young Nigerians must see sport as a pathway to global recognition. Edo State Governor Monday announced a 20 million naira reward for the winning states and 10 million naira for the runner-up. NDDC Managing Director Samuel said the competition is focused on nurturing amateur athletes, while Senate President Godswill Akpabio pledged legislative support for young development initiative linked to the games. And that was all we have for you at Idea TV News at 9. But before we go, here is a recap of the headlines. KOGI schools to reopen after security-driven break. ANTHEM activates substation to connect 420 megawatts of wind power. At least 50 killed women adopted in ZAMFARA attack. And away from Africa, Trump criticized Supreme Court after tariff on Nigeria orders voided. In business, custom hands overseas for worth 4.7 million naira to NMDPRA. And in health, UNICEF condemns Nigeria over 40 million new birth registration. And finally in sport, Niger Delta Games promote unity and youth empowerment. And do not forget to follow us across all our social media platforms at Idea Television. I am Mary Ojumajo. Thank you for watching.